What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Talking Philly Sports with Matty B program here on the Edge of Philly Sports with your boy Matty B on this Monday, April 15th, 2024. Happy Jackie Robinson Day. That's right. One of the most special days in the baseball calendar, as this was the day that marks the anniversary of the day that Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in Major League Baseball on April 15th, 1947. So, happy Jackie Robinson Day. That is what's going to be our Day in Philadelphia sports history question or topic tonight. That thing. I'm not going to have time to do anything else because we're doing a rapid fire show tonight, folks. Rapid fire, man. I'm only on the air for about a half hour, and I got to give way to Party on Broad. Sorry for the late night. Mondays are becoming a kind of a pain, but we're trying to work through them. I'm trying to work through them. Programming note, I will not be on the air at all next week. I will be in Florida. That's right. I'm going to Florida on Friday. Yeah, Saturday. I'm flying to Florida. So I'll be out of the loop for about a week. So no Talking Philly Sports with Matty B next week. I know. Just relax. I'll make up for it when I'm only going to be gone a week, so don't worry about it. All right. All right, let's get into the show tonight because we got some things we got to talk about, and I don't have much time to talk about it. I want to start off with this. I want to start off with some Eagles talk today, right? I don't know if you guys have seen this. If you haven't, I need you to pop over to the Edge of Philly Sports Facebook page. Take a look at it. Somebody from the Edge of Philly Sports, I don't know who put this up, but is apparently giving GOAT status to Howie Roseman for spending $1 billion on players. I don't really get that. I mean, I could spend $1 billion on players. You could spend $1 billion on players. Whether or not they're the right players or not remains to be seen. So to anoint this fraud GM a GOAT because he knows how to write a check, I don't know, man. I don't really understand that. So head over to the Edge of Philly Sports, the webpage, or not the webpage, the Facebook page, and go check this out. Again, I don't know who put it up. I have my ideas, but I don't know who did it. It was on the heels of the news broke today that Devontae Smith has been extended. Devontae signing a 3-year deal that's going to make him an Eagle through the 2026 season, I believe, right? Yeah, 27. Right. Through 2027, now he'll be an Eagle. Essentially a 4-year deal. He had 1 more year remaining on his rookie deal, and then they add on 3 years to that. It's a no-brainer move. I 100% agree with it. This is a move that, even though I don't think Devontae Smith is ever going to be that number 1 wide receiver, that's not what he is, and I think it's okay as long as we have that complement player to go along with him. Now, if the day ever comes where we're asking Devontae Smith to be that number 1 guy, I think we're all going to miss, we're going to be disappointed on the end result because I don't think he is that guy. He's a very good number 2. Very good. But I think he needs the other piece of that to go along with him to be the best that he can possibly be and bring the best he can possibly bring to the team. But either way, it's a great move, and it's a no-brainer move. So Devontae Smith is locked up as a Philadelphia Eagle for the next 4 seasons. But that doesn't make Howie Roseman a GOAT that he can write a check, nor does it make Howie Roseman a GOAT that he can sign players to deals. If I had the money, I guess, again, would I be considered the GOAT? I can sign contracts or I can sign players to contracts. Whether or not they're the right players is really what it remains to be seen because last time I checked, we didn't do too well last year, and we're kind of bringing some of these older guys back. So let's stand by on the GOAT nonsense, all right, Edge of Philly Sports. Again, I don't know who it was, but I have my suspicions. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of lead in with that because I thought that was pretty interesting that somebody would actually believe or think that Howie Roseman's a GOAT based on the fact that he can write a check. Then that makes me, does that make me the Billy GOAT because I can write bad checks? Does that make me better? If I can write fraudulent checks, does that make me better than Howie? I guess I don't know. Maybe I'm being too critical of Howie Roseman, right? Maybe I'm being too critical of the Howie apostles out there that want to praise his name at any turn of the hat. Maybe I'm being too critical. So I apologize, all you Howie apostles. Don't call the secret police on me. Let's throttle it back. This is actually our truce time of the year. I don't necessarily want to go round and round with you people right now, but But yeah, take that nonsense GOAT crap down. All right, that he is not the GOAT for writing a check. Nah. All right, so I wanted to lead off with that because I thought that appropriate. But please hurry over to the Edge of Philly Sports Facebook page so you can see for yourself and maybe comment along or I don't know, make your own opinion, I guess. But a lot going on in Philadelphia sports this week. We got the Eagles, or we got the Eagles stuck in my mind. We got the Sixers getting ready to embark. That's right, I'm talking basketball, so it must be important. The Sixers did not qualify for the NBA playoffs, not yet. They're going to enter the play-in round on Wednesday against the Miami Heat to battle for that 7th position in the East. Now, how that's going to go down is if the Sixers beat the Heat, signed, sealed, and delivered, the Sixers are the 7th seed. If the Sixers lose to the Heat, then the Sixers have to play, or then the Heat are the 7th seed, and the Sixers have to play the winner, the winner of the 9-10 game between Atlanta and Chicago. And then the winner of that game would be the 8th seed, and 2 teams go home. So not guaranteed, of course, the Sixers are going to get into the playoffs, but just about as close as a guarantee can be without being guaranteed. The Sixers are red hot. They finished the season red hot, and they potentially could be in a position with Joel Embiid being the healthiest that he's been ever in the postseason to potentially make a run here, which would be the the craziest thing I've ever seen. This team was dead in the water a few weeks ago, and now they're potentially going to be on the way to make a move. So more to follow. It's going to be an interesting week as the Sixers will find out their playoff fate here over the next couple days. Your Philadelphia Flyers, folks, on the other hand, are going to end their season tomorrow night at home against the Washington Capitals, or are they? Right? Because as we look at things right now, as we're staring at things on this Monday night, now some things are going to change, and some things are going to change over the next couple hours. But as of right now, as you can see, let's throw it up there. Here's your standings right now. Here is the standings as of tonight in the National Hockey League. And the Flyers right down here are tied along with the Detroit Red Wings and the Washington Capitals for that final wild card spot. A couple differences, though. If you can see the first one right off the bat is that the Flyers have played 81 games and Detroit and Washington have only played 80. Now, Detroit and Washington are playing tonight, along with Pittsburgh, who is behind everybody by 1 point. The Islanders are sitting pretty in that number 3 hole in the Metro, pretty much clinching it. There's an outside chance that the Pittsburgh Penguins or the Pittsburgh Penguins, Detroit, or Washington could potentially catch New York, which would then put the Flyers on the outside because the Flyers cannot get 90 points. The best Flyers can do here is 89. So the Flyers are going to need some help. They're going to need some drastic help in order to get into the playoffs this year. And as let's throw this up here for you. We got some games going on right now as we speak. As it's a busy night in the National Hockey League. The Flyers will not play until tomorrow against Washington. But right now, you got the Canadiens over the Red Wings 4-2, which is great news. About 2 minutes remaining in the second. You got the Penguins beating the Predators 3-1 with about 4 minutes to go in the second. And the Capitals beating the Bruins 1-0 with about a minute and 45 seconds remaining in the second period. So there you have, let me pop that up. I'm sorry, I didn't put it up there. So there you have it. There you have what's going on right now in the National Hockey League as the Flyers are clinging on to a potential playoff opportunity. And as you know, I do the Clear the Ice program here on Edge of Philly Sports, and I enjoy it. And I've had the opportunity the last 2 nights to host or co-host. And then I'm going to be on the show tomorrow night as we all potentially wrap up the season. And I told, I don't know, I think it was Pat that I was hosting with the other night, that I didn't really want the Flyers. I was done. I much would prefer at this point now to have a higher draft pick than to make the playoffs. I think I've seen enough. I honestly do. I think I've seen enough of this team. And I mean that in a good way. This has been a great season. It has. A lot of great things have been started. And I think now it's time to kind of focus on 24, 25. And with that, meaning the draft, free agency, looking at potential addition pieces to this team. What are we doing with goalie? Can we find that true number one center out there in free agency? Who are we drafting at, with our 2 first-round picks this year? So I know that the season is not over yet, and the Flyers are going to fight like hell and hopefully get some help. But if you're asking me, Matty B, I am much more ready for the end of the season right now as we can get into the postseason. Start concentrating on some of the things that we need to truly make an impactful Stanley Cup run next year. But we're going to play it out. I was looking back in Flyer history, and did you guys know back in, I think it was 88, 89, the Flyers got into the playoffs when they were at 36, 36, and 8. That was their record that year, and they got into the playoffs, and they made a run to the Eastern Conference Finals before bailing out to Montreal. That was the infamous Ron Hextall, Chris Chelios, Brian Propp thing, where Chelios, attacked Propp in a play, knocked him out for the series. Hextall then got his revenge on Chelios at the end of Game 6 when the Flyers were, about to get eliminated. He took his revenge on Chelios, which caused Hextall to be suspended for like 10 games the following season. Well, that was that season. The Flyers were 36, 36, and 8 heading into the playoffs that year. And I get it. Stranger things have been known to happen. But I just don't feel that way with this team. I think this team has been a great story. I think the things that have been done by this team are great starts. But I'm more really focused now on looking at what the future can be for this team. And I want a high draft pick. I think we have an opportunity. If we do not make the playoffs, we could pick around 12. I mean, I'll take that. I'll take one of our picks to be at 12. And maybe we mortgage that pick and the other first-round pick, we go up higher. I don't know, but we can find a quality NHL-ready player at 12. We could. At 16 or 17, maybe not so much. So, again, please take that for what it's worth. Please take it for the right reason. I'm not advocating tanking by no means, but I am definitely looking forward to a higher draft pick at this point. I've seen enough of the Flyers. I like what I've seen, but it's time now to focus on the future, just like the Anaheim Ducks are. That's right. If you notice this little tidbit of news that actually dropped on the EOP Facebook page, how I know that is because I put it up there. Cutter Gauthier is back in the news, folks. Yeah, you remember him, right? The former Flyer top prospect, Cutter Gauthier, who said, I don't want to play here. Please trade me or I'll never play here again, or I'll never play here ever. Danny B, I'm not going to return your phone calls. I'm not going to, I'm not even going to act like you're alive. So trade me. So the Flyers did. They traded him to Anaheim. Well, his Boston College Eagles were eliminated on Saturday night in the men's NCAA Division I hockey tournament in the Frozen Four. In the championship game, they lost to the University of Denver. And Maximo Rizzo, the Flyers prospect, he was on that team. So, and a couple other Flyers. There was another Flyer prospect and another really good draft prospect on that team as well, and Zach Beam. But Cutter Gauthier, his college season is over, so he went ahead and he signed his ELC. He's 3-year ELC with the Anaheim Ducks for roughly $950,000. Standard across the board type of deal. And he would make his NHL debut Thursday night in Las Vegas for said Anaheim Ducks. Of course, we're going to have to wait a little longer to get our shot at him. Probably won't happen until next October when the Ducks travel back east. And the one time we'll see him. So Cutter Gauthier officially now in the National Hockey League. And we can officially start the actual hate for this guy. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays itself out in the very near future, starting next year. So, as for the Flyers, they made some moves in signing some players as their seasons were coming to an end. But as far as joining the team, with the exception, of course, Ivan Fedotov, that was pretty much the only move that really is going to affect the team moving forward this year. Denver Berkey, a couple of those players, they signed a player out of the Swedish Elite League. Of course, they ended up trading for Denis, the right winger, and he's actually playing for the Flyers now. But the Flyers are not really looking at any other top prospects to join them for their final game. But the future is bright, obviously, and we're going to get a look at some of these kids heading into the summer. A lot of questions about some of these kids. Oliver Bonk, another one of those names. Denver Berkey, another name. Carson Bjornsson, the goalie who just finished his third year in major junior Canadian hockey. How many more years is this kid going to sit in that level? Does he move up? A lot of great things are going to work itself out this offseason. And I say let's get to it sooner than later because that's where I really want to see where this team is. And Matt V. Mitchkov, where are we at with that? What's the latest and greatest on him? All these things are going to work itself out over time, and we got to get to it, And as I said, it's been a nice story. It's been fun. We're talking relevant Flyer hockey on April 15th. The day, they're going into their final game of the season. Relevant. That is a victory. That is mission accomplished for year one of your rebuild. Now let's take a look at what we got to do for year 2, year 3, and beyond. So tomorrow the Flyers will end their season up against the Washington Capitals, and barring something traumatic and barring something significant, they will miss the playoffs probably by like a point. Yeah, they probably will. And then the questions can be started to be answered. And we've already kind of went into some of those, and we will definitely explore those on Clear the Ice this year. And we don't forget, we're also going to be covering the NHL draft. That's right. If you notice, there's been player cards being dropped all over EOP over the past 3 or 4 or 5, 6 weeks, getting you guys ready for that draft. And we're going to cover the draft here on the Edge of Philly Sports. Of course, we're going to cover the football draft here in the next week, but we're going to cover the NCAA. We're going to cover the NHL draft. And if you're wondering, here's your final Clear the Ice graphic potentially of the season. As I mentioned, tomorrow, me and Pat got the call on the Flyers season finale. Remember, and don't forget, everything that we've talked about up to this point is brought to you in part by the good folks over at Dolan's. Dolan's Bar presents Wiffle Ball Mania. John Kruk and Mickey Morandini are going to bring the Wiffle Ball Mania to a frenzy on Saturday, May 25th. Clear your schedules, circle your calendars, do what you got to do to make yourself present for this. You will not regret it. It's a fun time for all people, kids included. So head on down to Dolan's on 25 East Sellers Rev in Ridley Park. All right, let's move on now to the Phillies. As I notice, I'm running out of time. 8-8 through 16 games. 8-8 and sputtering, scuttling, can't get out of their own way. 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Things that we've begun to expect out of this baseball team over the last 2 seasons. We used to think, or I used to think, I shouldn't say we because I don't want to speak for anybody, but I used to think this was Joe Girardi, right? And I think a lot of us thought that. I think a lot of us thought that this was Gabe Kapler, Joe Girardi stuff. We bring Rob Thompson, and he has that great little back half of 2022, takes us to the World Series. We come into 2023, and we kind of scuttle out the gate. Right, but the difference between 2022 and 23 is we don't fire Rob Thompson like we fired Joe Girardi. We let Rob Thompson kind of figure it out, and he does. He gets us back into the playoffs, gets us into the National League Championship Series, and, of course, we fall short to the Arizona Diamondbacks. Then he tells us that things are going to be different in the end-of-season press conference. Tells us we're going to work on certain situational aspects of hitting. We're going to work on trying to put the ball in play more. We're going to work on trying to be more contact hitters. We're not going to slug as much, or we're not going to go up there slugging as much as we did in the playoffs because it ended up biting us in the ass. So we're 16 games into the season, and apparently Rob Thompson has been on record, I've seen it, by saying we're a team that's built to slug and that we're going to slug. And then that's what we're doing. I haven't come yet. We're close. But we're going to slug. Forgive me if I'm taking that out of context. Forgive me if I'm taking it too relevant. But isn't that the reason why we ended up losing the NLCS in the first place, was because that's all we were trying to do was slug? And didn't the manager tell us, and I can replay the tape. I can go back. I have the end of season press conference from November. I can replay the tape where he said that we got to do better in situational hitting. And he said that that's one thing that probably cost us the series against Arizona. was we were trying to swing for the fences too much. So apparently he lied. Apparently that's not what they were working on in spring training. And really, no one, I don't think, knows what they were working on in spring training. As far as Big Al is concerned, they were working on excuse number 5, which was they're all sick. Last year was excuse number 4, the WBC. I don't know what next year is going to be. You have to get with Al and find out what his excuse for the Phillies' slow start is for next year. But we'll take 1 year at a time here on this program. But if Rob Thompson is telling everybody that this team is built to slug and that they're going to slug, what does that mean? What does that make you feel like anything is going to change come the postseason? I mean, NFL defenses figure out quarterbacks all the time. Our MLB pitching staff is going to figure out how to beat the Phillies. I think some of them might have already figured it out. And yet we have our manager, the guy that's in charge, right? The guy that is in charge of all the coaches, the guy whose voice should be the loudest in that clubhouse saying, we're a team that's built to slug and we're going to slug. How does that make you feel more comfortable that we're going to get above where we were last season when apparently we're not going to change or fix anything that happened to us last year? We're essentially going to go right down the same road. I mean, again, am I taking this too literal? Should I be taking it more existentially than what he said? David says snail, not slug. Well, unfortunately, that's kind of what it's turned into. We haven't been able to kind of get going. Billy Covington says this team is up against the worst pitching staff in the league, and they're still struggling to hit. Yeah, and Billy's making a reference to what's happening right now. The Phillies are playing the Rockies, and they started the game against a pitcher who I believe brought an ERA into the game north of 7, and they struggled to score a run off of them. They got 1 run. So again, 16 games in, and I understand that. But when your own manager, who I've never been a fan of, I mean, I'm not necessarily on the let's tar and feather Rob Thompson and exile him off the island thing. I mean, I could really, I wouldn't be upset if they fired him. And right now, I can tolerate him. I'm starting to lose my patience a little bit, but some people have already, tried, convicted, and executed him, which is fine. I'm not going to say you're wrong, but when the manager says that we're a team that's built to slug, and that's kind of how we lost the NLCS last year, and apparently we're not going to change anything. I'm a little concerned. I'm a little concerned that who's driving the boat here. I mean, who's the captain? Now, some of the stats through 16 games are telling you that's exactly what the Phillies are. They're a slugging team. Phillies have struck out 144 times through 16 games. It's more now. It's they struck out some tonight. I don't know the numbers totally, but tonight they have. But 144 so far through 16 games. It's 9 a game. That is completely the same number that the Phillies had last year. They averaged 9 strikeouts a game. It was over 1,000 strikeouts. It was like Christ. It was like 1,500 strikeouts. But they've struck out over. They're striking out on average 9 times a game, which was the same average they had last year. They have left 108 runners on base. 108 runners on base through 16 games. That's almost 7 runners a game. Almost 7 runners a game are being left on base by this team, who apparently is a team built to slug. They're 30 for 119 with runners in scoring position, or a 252 batting average, which is actually better where they were at this point last year. So I'm optimistic there. Some of the other numbers that are really kind of grabbing me is 12 errors through 16 games. 12 errors through 16 games for this team. It's hovering. It's closing in on 1 a game. It's about 0.7 a game. The Phillies catchers, and I'm not going to give the BCIB all the credit here, have allowed 18 runners to steal against them this year. It's over 1 a game. Yep, it's over 1 a game. That number was down in like the 0.4 range throughout most of last season. And the Phillies as a team is built to slug. It's averaging has 16 home runs through 16 games, so that's 1 a game. They've given up as a pitching staff 15 home runs. So that's closing in on 1 a game. So a lot of familiarities, right, between this season and last season. A lot of things that are not that are concerning me because I was told that we were not going to be this type of team anymore. We're going to try to capitalize and be more situationally aware and have better approaches at the plate. And I have not seen any of that, right, up through 16 games. And it's concerning. It's very concerning. Billy says, but the Atlanta Braves are also a team built to slug, and that's what they seem to do. Now, the Braves are going to try to slug their way to a division title, as they always do in the regular season, but they can't do it in the playoffs. The league is very scared of the Braves, not so much the Phillies. Billy, listen, I get what you're saying, and I'm not saying this argument is indicative to the Phillies. Now, mind you, I'm not saying that. I'm saying a lot of teams take this approach, but I don't really care about a lot of teams. I care about the Phillies, right? I mean, if the Phillies, somebody told the Phillies to jump off a bridge, are they going to do it? I understand that a lot of teams are, they want to go down a certain road and they want to have an identity and they want to be a certain way. I get that, but we've seen, and the Braves have seen it too, where it just doesn't work. I mean, we saw it on the second biggest stage of the postseason last year. We got beaten by the Arizona Diamondbacks. Do we forget what that felt like? Because I don't. I sure as hell didn't forget what that felt like. To lose to the 7th seed, Arizona friggin' Diamondbacks. Come on, man, that was embarrassing. And the way we lost was really embarrassing. So I get it. They're going to slug. They're going to hammer away, right? But to be ignorant, so ignorant to understand that when you're up with runners on first and second, and you have 2 outs, your number one concern is to get a run in somehow. Or runners on first and third with 1 out. You want to get the ball in the air on the opposite field in order to get a run home. We're not trying to swing the crap out of the ball. We just got to put it in play, put it up in the air, get a run. And if we're attacking baseball with that ignorance, something needs to be done. Now, again, 16 games into the season, I'm not going to get all wired up crazy about. They're a good baseball team. I just feel that their coaching and their managerial directions are wrong. And it's going to be interesting to me to see how much or how far we get deep in this or how much we get buried in this before a change is made for any of this stuff. But it's going to be a fun ride, and I'm glad I'm on it again. Absolutely. And let's remind everybody at home that all of the programming here on the Edge of Philly Sports is brought to you in part by Dave Cherry. That's right, 610-565-0300 or www.cherryinjurylaw.com for motor vehicles, workman's compensation, motor vehicle accidents, personal injury, or criminal law. Give Dave a call. He's waiting at the phone right now for you. And then when you're done with talking to Dave and you want to get to a game, because that's where I would be going right after I spoke to a lawyer, head over to Cherry's Ticket Town for great prices and no hidden fees for sports, concerts, theater tickets. www.sherrystickets.com. Family owned and operated since 1946. Enter the promo code EOP10 for an additional 10% off. So there you go. There's our sponsors pretty much. All but one, and I'll even have their graphic here. Philly Sports Strips. That's right. Why did I get rid of all Philly Sports Strip stuff? You guys all know about Philly Sports Strips, right? If you want to travel like the pros, I mean, you gotta head over to Philly Sports Strips. They got you covered with all 4 majors, and I believe the Union too. Stuff going down all the time. They're getting ready to start their summer season, and there's some granddaddy trips going on. So make sure you head over there. The Eagle schedule should be breaking here in about a month or so. So then those trips will be up there. So it's a busy time for Philly Sports Trips. Make sure you're keeping an eye on what they might be offering, because it might be what you're looking for. It might be a bucket list type of thing that you're looking for. So make sure you keep an eye on Philly Sports Trips. David says there's no intensity this season, and that started in spring training with all the ties. The leaders on this team need to step up and lead the team. Yeah, I've never been a fan of listen, I get what spring training baseball is. And I think when you had a team like this, when there wasn't too many roster battles, I mean, there wasn't really that much going on down there. It was bench battles, right? We really kind of knew what the entire starting rotation was. We knew what the starting lineup was. Rojas, did anybody really believe Rojas was going down to spring training and not making this team? Come on. He was, barring like the fact that he might have broken his leg because he didn't hit worth a damn down there. He played really good defense, and when he did get on base, he was rolling around the base pads. So let's be honest. There wasn't really that much battling going on down there for roster spots. There were some bench spots, right? As far as the leadership on this team, yeah, well, who is that, by the way? Is it Bryce Harper? Is it JT? I mean, who are the like self-imposed or official leaders of the baseball team? I imagine it's some of those veterans. I don't want to pretend to know what's going on inside that clubhouse. I don't, because I don't. But I know they're aware of it, obviously, and But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to necessarily get wrapped around the axis of how they played during the spring. Not at all, because there wasn't really that much to play for, really. So do I, but there are two players in this lineup that I would love to see at the plate, third baseman and a second baseman, and maybe the catcher. But the others are to hit and miss. I know. Listen, Billy, and it's going to be that way all season long, and unfortunately, I don't think there's been a time that I can sit here and tell you that all 9 players have been hitting at the same time. I don't think I can do that, but I guess the Phillies just got to try to get as many of these guys to be in sync with each other, and for the best that they possibly can. It's a long season. 16 games in is not necessarily. I do believe when the smoke clears, the Phillies are going to be standing in the postseason, but that's not enough for me, and it shouldn't be enough for you. This is a championship or bust type of season when you've gone to the World Series one year and then to the NLCS the following year. So getting to the postseason to me is an afterthought at this point. I think they will. But have they learned their lessons? Are we going to make a run and win a world championship? Because that's exactly what we're looking for. So Dave says a big collision on home at the wild pitch. Yeah, I just saw that. That's pretty intense. Phillies are playing right now, by the way. And don't forget, after this, the Titans final will be. We're going to take you through postgame. All right. Covered some Phillies, covered some Eagles. Talked about Howie Roseman's not a GOAT for paying out $1 billion in homegrown talent. No, that means he's literate and knows how to write a check. He's not a GOAT. So somebody on the Edge of Philly Sports posted this ridiculous Howie Roseman's a GOAT thing on Facebook because he's written out checks for over $1 billion. It's probably the stupidest thing I've ever seen. I don't know who it was. I have my ideas, but let's pump our brakes there. Flyers season's coming to an end, mercifully, but happily, and I hope it does. So I want that higher draft pick, and I want to start focusing our attention on 24-25. Sixers are in the play-in round. Big week for them. Not the season that they wanted, but it doesn't really matter at this point now. It's just about going forward. Are they the 7th seed? Are they the 8th seed? Do they find themselves on the outside of the playoffs, which would be interesting? And your Phillies at 16-16, confusing, sputtering, stammering, but they are what they are, and they're built to be in the postseason, and they're built to slug. Is Rob Thompson the right manager for this? Because it's all about winning a World Series. It's not about getting to a postseason. It's not even about winning the division anymore. It's about winning a World Series. Is Rob Thompson the right guy for that? I don't know if he is. I believe in this team, but I really would like for more fire on this team. Yeah, so would I. Absolutely, Billy. No, 100%. Sometimes it seems like they're definitely mirroring their manager, who's very laid back and mellow. All right, I am out of my time. It's time for me to move on. Party on Broad has already begun. Make sure you head over there. We're getting close to the NFL draft, and Party on Broad is amping up their coverage of that. So make sure you go over there right now as soon as I say my little shtick, and then you head over. So it's getting kind of testy down there at the bank. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I remember I will not be back next week. I will be in Florida for the week. St. Augustine. Has anybody ever been there? I've never been to St. Augustine. So I'm going to be going down there. I'm going to be playing out my pirate fantasies for the next week down there in St. Augustine, Florida. And take that. I didn't mean that to be any kind of creepy thing. I just meant that I'm going to go and hang out in pirate history for a week. So We leave on Friday night and come back on Saturday night. Come back on Friday. So no Talking Philly Sports with Matty B next week, but I'll be back, and I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about. Then we'll have a lot to dissect with the Eagles draft and all that other kind of stuff going on, and and a lot of other things. So until we talk again, that is the news, and I'm out of here.